In the near future, most of the East Coast cities have been flooded due to global warming. The cities turn into ghost towns as the sun rises due to its extreme temperatures, forcing them to live their life at night. Land barons have control over any dry lands they can lay their hands on. The town is poverty-stricken. It's a world where people try to do anything to get away and remember the good old days. This is where military veteran Nick Bannister comes in. He owns a business where clients pay to relive previous experiences using a reminiscence machine called a tank. Nick has a partner and fellow veteran, Emily Watts. They have customers through appointments and have regular clients like Nick's paraplegic veteran friend, Hank. Nick narrates to him in a soothing voice, taking him 13 years back to a memory of Hank playing with his dog, and Nick can witness that in a hologram and hears the sounds. For Hank, it feels like reliving the memory. Nick thinks nothing is more addictive than the past and reliving with their loved ones, and they will get consumed if not careful. They also have another regular client, Elsa, who comes in frequently to experience specific memory with her old lover. The tank records all their clients' memories and they store them in a locker. Emily offers Elsa her recording as she is reliving the same memory and wasting her money, but Elsa refuses because she can feel her lover's arms around her in the reminiscence. Emily thinks Elsa should stop being sentimental and move on. As they were closing up, a mysterious and attractive woman named May walked in, asking for a quick session to find her missing keys. Nick gets strongly attracted and agrees to help her. He gives her the tranquilizer, and she prepares to enter the tank. He observes her memories of her usual routine and notices a few things in her room. Emily sees May putting the keys in her bag and dropping those in the dressing room. Emily thinks of pulling her out of the tank, but Nick continues to see her memories. He learns May is a nightclub singer and feels even more attracted watching her singing his favorite song. Emily later learns that May forgot her earrings. The following evening Nick was called to the DA's office. The prosecutor Avery Castillo wants Nick to retrieve information from a dying land baron, Walter Sylvan, who is holding a monopoly in the area. Walter refuses to cooperate, citing his health as an excuse. Nick overhears Walter asking his son Sebastian if he has found her yet, to which he says no. Nick narrates that city is rotten in corruption. Nick remembers the nightclub from May's memory and arrives there while she is performing. He returns her earrings, and they have a brief conversation, before he escorts her home, where they have an intimate moment. Later they have a conversation on the rooftop, where Nick tells her memories are like perfume, and they are better in small doses, but May thinks he hasn't made the right memories yet. Nick's vision fades at that point, and he wakes up in the tank. Emily expresses her concern, as he has been doing that for months, reliving every moment he had with May. May appears to have disappeared, and Nick is poring over his memories to figure out where she went, as their relationship is growing, and he thinks people don't vanish. But Emily believes May must have moved on, while Nick says she might be in trouble. Emily tells him they are the ones in real trouble, as their business is going down, and their regular client Elsa hasn't popped up for her usual in months. Nick is still obsessed and goes to the club, but gets no information about May, and a woman informs him May isn't the person he thought she was. He eventually returns to the tank, takes a sedative, and returns to his memory where he took May to dry land and expresses his love to her. Suddenly he wakes to an alarm that Emily has set for him. He hears someone banging on the door and yells they are closed. As he leaves the building, he finds May's earring in the water. He tells Emily about it, but she thinks May must have lost it months ago. Avery called Nick and Emily to look into the memories of a suspect named Fawkes, who is on the verge of death due to a drug overdose. Avery tells them that Fawkes used to work for a drug lord named St. Joe in New Orleans, and she wants Nick to find something against Joe. Nick tries for hours but is unsuccessful. He realizes that dying men always want closure, a happy thought. Nick takes a different approach and asks Fawkes if he likes to party, and soon they start to see his memories in the hologram. They see Joe in it, and Avery thinks they got him. Nick then sees May performing at Joe's club and learns the memory was from 5 years ago. Nick ignores Joe and starts focusing on May despite Avery's warnings. Nick pursues Fawkes to proceed to his next memory of May, where he gets thrashed by Joe after disrespecting May, and they spot a corrupt cop named Cyrus with Joe. Joe then forces her to try Baca, a highly addictive drug. May eventually becomes Joe's mistress and gets addicted to Baca. May is later seen stealing Baca from Joe and attacks Fawkes when he catches her. Nick was devastated to learn that May was a junkie, and Emily knew about it. This causes Nick to wonder how much he knew about May, and he heads to New Orleans to find her. Nick arrives at Joe's club and poses as a junkie to get in. But Joe manages to see through his face. He starts torturing Nick, and he comes clean to Joe and asks about May, but Joe replies he hasn't seen her since she stole his stash. Joe then orders his men to drown Nick in his eel tank. But Emily comes to the rescue, having followed him. She takes down Joe's men, and shoots the tank to save Nick, before shooting Joe. Joe pleads with Emily to put him out of his suffering, as he does not want to suffer to death, and Emily complies. After digging through more of his and May's memories, Nick finds that May robbed his vault, and took Elsa's recordings. Nick goes to a local market and asks whether anyone has seen Elsa by showing them a photo of her. One of them points out to a girl who may have information. She immediately flees as he pursues her. He eventually catches up and calms her down. She reveals that Elsa was murdered, and a red-headed woman abducted her son Freddie. Nick realizes it must be May, and wonders who she really is. While looking for her, he gets attacked by Cyrus, telling Nick to forget about May. Nick goes through the memories to find something against the cop, and Emily discovers that Cyrus is the same cop who worked with Joe. Emily tells Nick that land baron Walter Sylvan has died, but the monopoly continues as his wife Tamara and son Sebastian will inherit everything. Nick recognizes Tamara, as she used to be his client, and this rings a bell. Returning to the office, he uses Elsa's memory copy and compares it to one Tamara had viewed years ago. Nick recognizes that voice and learns Elsa is having an affair with Walter, and she got pregnant with his child, who is a potential heir. Emily informs Cyrus moved from New Orleans to Miami and started working with Walter. Emily attempts to persuade Nick to give the evidence to the cops, but Nick feels the cops will do nothing. This leads to an argument. Emily confronts Nick about his fixation with finding May, while Nick blames her for using the job as an excuse to flee her family and past life. He fires her and transfers her to work with Avery, prompting Emily to leave in anger, warning Nick she won't be able to save him the next time. He decides to meet Tamara, who lives in the dry lands. The butler lets him in and tells him he is late. Nick finds many people dressed as Walter, and the butler thinks he is one of the people performing for Tamara. Nick changes his attire and meets Tamara, whose memory is damaged from using the tank too much. She thinks that she is still pregnant and talking to Walter. Nick manages to bring her back to her senses for a moment and asks about Walter's affair with Elsa. She claims Elsa was one of the numerous women he did it with and reveals Walter never liked sharing. He ordered Cyrus to kill Elsa and Freddie. Sebastian soon interrupted them and ordered the guards to drag him out and kill him. Before they shoot, they notice a mark showing that he served, so they let him go, before warning him that they would kill him if he returned. Nick then buys a boat and heads to the old recycling plant, narrating it's the place he could find many lost souls. There he notices May and follows her and finds Cyrus, but he soon realizes that woman is not May. Nick confronts him about May, but Cyrus boasts and provokes Nick into killing him. When Nick hesitates to shoot, Cyrus jumps out of the window. Nick chases him. He finds Cyrus on a lower level, and they keep fighting. As they continue their fight to a music room, Nick overpowers him, and Cyrus gets drowned. Nick dives to help free him, only to be left to drown himself. Cyrus recalls memories of May while holding her earring. Nick eventually sneaks up on Cyrus and knocks him out using a tranquilizer. He brings Cyrus to his office and hooks him up to the tank. It is revealed that Cyrus had forced May into working for him to save herself from Joe. May then meets Hank and offers him some baka, and Hank tells her about Nick's favorite song. She studied him for a long time to understand how to seduce him and stage the loss of her keys. Cyrus's memories reveal that May's relationship with Nick is a lie, as her goal was to enter the vault and take Elsa's memory records. Later they track down Elsa and Freddie, and Cyrus kills her. But May changes her heart and takes Freddie away to safety. Later, Nick is shocked to learn May is knocking on his door, and Nick yells they are closed before Cyrus finds her. May drops her earring as he takes her away, and she reveals that she loves Nick. He then asks Cyrus what he did to her, and sees the memory where Cyrus drugged May with baka to get her to disclose where she had hidden Freddie. But May instead leaves an indirect message for Nick about Freddie's location, knowing Nick would view this memory. She apologizes for fooling him and admits that she truly loved him and should have told him everything right from the beginning. May then takes a huge dosage of baka before jumping to her death, leaving Nick heartbroken. Instead of killing Cyrus, Nick uses the memories of his St. Joe's men burning and disfiguring him to traumatize him, then cranks up the power on the machine to leave him suffering. Nick arrives at the Sylvan estate and confronts Sebastian, the true mastermind behind all this. He was the one who told Cyrus to kill Elsa and Freddie, believing that Freddie's existence would risk his inheritance. Freddie is discovered alive and well at the white seaside home that May informed Nick about, and is safely rescued by the police. Nick informs Sebastian that the cops will arrive shortly to arrest him. Sebastian threatens Nick and then himself, but Nick calls his bluff. When Nick walks away, A devastated Sebastian cries in his mother's arms. Nick visits Emily at her new job, and the two reconcile. Nick admits to deliberately frying Cyrus' memories, a punishable offense with prison time. However, Nick begs Emily to tell Avery and the police everything as he tells her the entire tale. He then suggests that Emily return to her family before it gets too late. Nick is then shown heading to his office as Miami is in mayhem, with riots everywhere. Nick narrates that the Sylvan family's control of the town's land is ultimately broken. Nick is found guilty, but Avery cuts him a deal for exposing Sylvan's family conspiracy, and Nick has to serve his sentence in his tank for the rest of his life, reliving his memories with May. Several years later, an elderly Nick remains in the tank, with an equally elderly Emily watching over him. Her granddaughter wonders why is she taking care of him, and Emily explains that she and Nick each made their own decisions a long time ago. When the two leave, we see Nick recalling the moment with May when he tells her a story in a way that makes it appear like they lived happily ever after. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this.